Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this today's talk on team management. And actually, we're going to talk a little bit about effective remote team management. Just a little bit of background about myself is that I've been in the corporate field for a very long time, and I've been working with a lot of leaders like yourself in managing people, understanding them, motivating them, using different styles of leadership. And I think more importantly now with this pandemic, a lot of us are actually managing people remotely. Now we have this habit of only trusting, so-called only trusting people when we can see them doing the job. But now that we can't see them doing the job, we get a lot more worried. So I have a lot of CEOs and top guns asking me, Tino, how do I make sure and how do I know that my people are working from home and they are being effective? And instead of answering and telling them all the things that they can do, I ask them one basic question. This is the basic question to all of you as leaders as well. If you have that thought in your head, is, are your people producing what you want or what you need? If they are, why worry? Irregardless of what time they work and what hours into the night they work, as long as they're producing, I think they're fine. It's no longer like where you have to clock in at 9 o'clock and clock out at 6 o'clock. I mean, the world has changed. We all know that is happening, right? So let's dwell into it a little bit more, yeah? Okay, let me just share my screen here. Oops, sorry, apologies. Yeah, here we go. So more importantly, right now, what we're looking at, what is happening around the world and happening in Malaysia, in your own organization as well, is that we're seeing this, that the new norm is causing a lot of havoc in companies. And everybody, in actual fact, is worried when people are starting to work from home and you wonder if they're actually doing what they're supposed to do. Like I said earlier on, if they're actually producing what you want, why worry so much? And I actually myself, I've been working at home for 7 years now. And I find that initially when I started working at home, the key here in actual fact is that I find that I work a lot more hours. And I think you too, you guys too, right? When you started working from home in about a year and a half ago, you find that you actually work a lot more hours. Yes, there's a lot of disturbance going on. Until you find that flow that you have, then you become a lot more effective. And many of us working from home, we don't know how to set up an office at home. So we use everywhere, sitting on the couch, sitting at dining table, everywhere to do your work. And then your children at home will see you sitting down and they say, hey, daddy's at home, mommy's at home, let's go disturb, right? Or disturb them. And that's causing a lot of havoc for a lot of companies because now they can't see there are people in the office working, right? The other thing is this, that there's a lot of uncertainty. Yeah, people are going through a lot of emotional roller coaster because, again, many people have been laid off because of this situation, this pandemic. So everybody's like wondering, am I next? Will I be next? What am I going to do if I lose this job? Right? There's no job in the market right now. A lot of leaders also found out that they actually overemploy during good times. When you are good times and you're busy, you tend to actually want more people. Now in this pandemic, you realize that you probably don't need as many people as you have. And that's why organizations are laying off people. Big organizations, not just small ones, everybody's affected. Right? And our people are going through this. Then the more we ask of them, the more emotional roller coaster ride they're going to go through. Thirdly, it's of course, bosses are having an uphill battle when managing their people's performance. Everybody is having the same issue. It's not just you guys. There are many others who are actually just now thinking, how do I make my people more accountable? I don't want to be the leader who keeps telling people what to do, right? Or maybe you are one of those leaders who keep telling people that you need to do this, you need to do that. When you're at home, you need to do this. Stop doing that. I think that's the worst that you can do to actually manage your people remotely. The more you tell people what to do, the worse it is, the more they don't want to do it. It's a simple fact, right? And the last thing here in actual fact is this. There's a lot of ambiguity in the work that they do, in accountability, right? And even giving company directions. Where are we heading right now? Are we just trying to keep to survive? Or are we actually trying to make more money? Can we make more? Can we make more money? So this is what's happening right now. And I'm sure you yourself, in your head, you have a lot of things going on. You have a lot of questions you need answered. So the question now, the big questions, if we want to effectively manage team remotely, the big question here we need to ask is this: how do we then drive accountability and performance? I said earlier on, don't tell your people what to do, right? When you are telling people what to do, you are actually giving them an SLA, a service level agreement. The service level agreement defines the outcome, the target or the performance that the leader has set for subordinate. And this is something which we do very commonly. Even before the pandemic, we do this all the time. Year end comes, you do an appraisal, and then what you do, you tell them what they need to produce the following year. You tell them that this is what is required of them every single time, right? Then you take a little bit of assurance that half a year later you tell them how they perform. Then at the end of the year again you tell them how they perform. Honestly, that's old school. That's old school. People don't need this anymore. The younger generations are not gonna like this. There's a time for us to change, right? And what is in place of giving people that, telling them what to do, where you are always setting things for that, setting the goals and whatnot. What's in place of that? I think now the younger generations prefer this, which is actually called the DLA, which is actually a deliverable level agreement. Now, on this, in actual fact, it also defines the outcome, target, and performance. But the key here in actual fact is the employee telling the bosses, the leaders, what are they going to produce? How are they going to get it done? This is going to be a lot more different. It's like you asking your child, what marks do you want to get for history? You're helping them to set their own targets. You're going to help them set their own goals. Of course, mind you, we wouldn't accept goals that are very low or all the low-hanging fruits kind of a situation. That's not going to help us. But what they need to do in actual fact is that when they set their goals, they need to look at their own capabilities. They need to see it. They need to look at their past history and what have they produced, and how can they produce more and more effectively. So it's not just about accepting what they tell you. It's in actual fact a negotiation where you sit down and you work with them. What are the goals that you believe or they believe that they can do? So if they said, I'm going to achieve 100 million, for example, the question that we need to ask is it realistic? Can you reach 100 million? When in the past you were only hitting $10 million. Now you want 100 million? That's not realistic. He's probably saying 100 million just to make you happy. But he's not going to produce it. So it has to be a goal that when they set, they know their own limitations, they know their own capabilities, and if they need help, yeah, we will help them. As leaders, we will help them. It's either we coach them or we send them for training. But more importantly is that they tell us what they need to do. That's what a DLA is. And very, very few people nowadays, or leaders nowadays, use DLA. They prefer the SLA because that's the easiest way out.
How much do
Less conversation.
I got some work to do.
I'm sorry, somebody's mic is on.
Huh?
Vishnu, can you mute them? Thank you. Now, so that's, like I said, SLO is actually a very old school thing. So now change it. If you can do it right away. If on Monday, when you get back to the office, for all you leaders, when you get back into the office, look at your people, bring them in, sit down with them and say, okay, the next 3 months, what can you produce? Tell me, what can you give us, right? And if they can tell you what they want and what they can produce, it's even better, because now it's something that they're going to be accountable. We don't create, a lot of leaders here don't create enough accountability in their people. We need to learn to do that. So it's just like, just to give you a simple example, somebody who's punctually late, come late all the time, punctually late, right? Now, what's the first question that we ask them? And it's always, why are you late? Now, the answers you already know, because they're going to give you the answers that traffic jam, raining, cat give birth, all sorts of reasons. But you have heard them 101 times. So why ask that question? What's the relevance of asking that question? So now, as a leader, what kind of questions should you ask? You ask behavioral questions, which means now I'm going to ask you, how are you going to come in early? If you tell me how you're going to come in early, I'm going to hold you on to that. If you tell me that I have to leave the house early, I'm going to say to you, what does that mean? What does early mean? Tell me what early means. To a point where they tell you, I'm going to leave my house by 7:30. Good, I'm going to write that down. Tell me, leave at 7:30. And I'm going to use this. So a DLA is basically just asking the right question so that when they tell you what they're going to produce and how they're going to produce it, you put it down on a piece of paper and use this as a monitoring tool. But don't wait 3 months later and tell them that they're doing well or not. You do it right away on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis. Give them feedback so that they know how to improve. If you don't give them enough feedback, forget about it. If they're working from home, now especially when you're managing people remotely, ask them what they're going to produce. Ask them how they're going to get it done. The moment you ask them this kind of questions, you are driving accountability on. You're driving accountability. You're putting it on them. And they will actually drive their own performance because they say they're going to do. If they don't deliver, then the consequences will come. Right? It's either remedies or penalties if it's not achieved. But they are willing and they happily accept it because it's what they say they're going to do. So keep that in mind for a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. Right? Think about how is this going to help you. Make a change, go back and start asking. Now, if you want to see permanent change or you want to see a different results, you have to do things differently. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different results, that's what we call a definition of stupidity. Right? You're not going to get a different results if you do the same thing over and over again. So if you are having issues right now with managing your team remotely and you want to change, do something different. Change the way you manage them. You're going to get a different results. Now, so moving on a little bit, the part of it in actual fact is how do we actually communicate our expectations to our people? We all know right now we're living in the VUCA, right? Volatile, uncertain, complex, and a lot of ambiguity, right? But we as leaders, we can actually change the way we communicate our expectations to our people. This is the key, because if you don't change that, your people are not going to change. So it starts with you. Every time you point a finger at your people, 4 fingers point back at you. That tells you that you need to change. If you don't change, don't expect your people to change. So start changing the way you communicate your expectations. So VUCA for your leadership and strategies here in Nitrify is number 1, V stands for vision. Keep, paint a vision of the future or a picture of the future that you want with your people and get them involved in it. Together, sit down and brainstorm with your people on how we want to get there. What kind of future do we want? Right? In the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, in the next 1 year, in the next 3 years, in the next 5 years, long term, short term, whatever. But get your people involved. When you run a business, you don't run on your own. You run it with a group of people who can actually help you. You're a leader of people. Right? Get them involved. Get them to think about what kind of future they want for the organization as well. Right? So when you do that, you are also creating a bond of people, a bonding of people, a bonding of the team. Right? You're starting a culture of people putting their heads together and say, hey, this is the direction we want to take. Now the directions are all clearer for everybody because they are involved. Right? The other thing about the next one is actually you, which is creating understanding. Right? When you create understanding, it also makes people more information more transparent for others. Right? So share information with your people, create understanding within your team, so that when they are thinking, they can actually think a little bit even deeper with the right information. That's when we talk about creative thinking. You got to have the right information. So if you're holding back information from the people, don't expect them to be able to actually achieve what you want them to achieve. No, well, I can understand when you say informations are, what's the word? Only when you need to know, right? But in my line of work, in my career, in corporate, when that happens, I always see that a lot of people are confused. My people are confused. I'm confused. My boss themselves, they're confused. Because one day they will say this, and the other day they will say something else. Right? When that happens, when there's no transparency, there will be no understanding. And people fail because they don't understand what is required. Right? The third thing is actually clarity. Right? Simplicity is best. Keep it simple. Focus on what counts and really go out and get it done. Make it simple so that it's not complex. Right? The other VUCA, the other C in VUCA in HFX is complexity, right? As we know. So if it's complex, make it clear. Give clarity to your people so that they can understand it and they know how to drive it. Again, it's related to giving people understanding as well. And the last one in HFX is of course, agility or flexibility. Today's world and today's business world is not about the big eating the small. It's about the fast eating the slow. Okay? It doesn't matter how big the company is, but if you're fast enough to move, you will take a bigger chunk of the pie. And you can see a lot of companies who are big, because they're not agile, they lose out to their smaller competitors. I can tell you for simple fact, I mean, reading the news, all of you guys read the news. Because of this pandemic, online shopping has increased. And along with that, in terms of the supply chain, is courier companies have come up. In Malaysia, there's about 130 courier companies, right? And Post Malaysia in HFX is one of them. But guess what? Post Malaysia is having a lot of problems. They're facing a lot of issues because they're not flexible enough. They're losing money in this pandemic. When online shopping has gone up into the billions of dollars, people are spending billions of dollars. They are losing out to the smaller competitors because they're just too big and not flexible. So we as leaders, if we want to actually be able to get our people to understand, get our people to move fast, is that we need to communicate our expectations, create that vision for our people, tell them what are we going to be achieving in the next 1 year? Where are we heading in the next 1 year? Right? Give them clarity and understanding. Tell them, work with them, ask them. Ask them for ideas, ask them for their deliverables, right? And then make sure that it's actually achievable. And last but not least, you yourself be flexible enough. There are many ways to skin a cat. We don't always have to do things the same way. You want a different result. Again, like I said, do things differently. Right? If you communicate your expectations to your people well enough, trust me, people are going to start understanding what you want them to do. And they will do even without you telling them what to do. Right? Now, the next thing that we need to look at in Metrify is learning to create the culture. People development is important. You can't do without. This morning I was attending a talk, right? And the title of the talk was Managing Talents. Managing Talents. And one of the things that they said in Metrify is that the younger generation coming in, they're looking for the type of culture that's going to help them to grow. They want to grow. If you're in if you're a leader in your the Gen X, Gen Y generation, or the Gen X generation, or baby boomer generation, you're going to have a hard time with the younger ones, the Gen Zs or the millennials. They're very different. They look for development a lot more than you do. You have to spend time to develop your people. You have to think about the culture you want, right? Because culture does affect the way you do your business, even your department. Take for example, right? If you allow punctuality or people late coming in late, if you allow it to happen, you are actually already creating a culture in your organization. If you allow poor performance to go unnoticed, you have already started a culture. If you as a leader, at the end of the year, when you do your performance appraisal for your people, right? And you know that this guy is not performing to par, and you still give him a 3 out of a 5, you have started a new culture. A culture that is negative, not positive, right? This is where a lot of leaders get caught. They don't realize that no matter what they do, they are the center or the epicenter of a culture. The organization has its own culture, that's fine. But you as a leader within your own department, within your own team, you are creating a culture, whether you like it or not. You may think that you don't have any effect on it, but you do. If you start learning to empower your people, if you start learning to develop your people, educate them, train them, or even reward them positively, you are creating a culture where everybody wants to get in. Right? Okay. Now, next thing that we need to think about in creating that culture is also, of course, what Richard Branson is saying. Your clients don't come first. Your employees do. Why is that? What he called on to say, if you take care of your employees, they will take care of the clients. And I think that is really something which we need to really think about. Because many of us, we think that just because we pay them money, they have to do the job. Mind you, that's no longer the case. In the past, maybe. Now, no. Just because you pay me money, there's a lot of other people out there who can also pay me money, right? There's a lot of more people who can pay me money, not just you. But if you don't take care of me, I'm going to move. And if your organization have people who turn around so fast, in and out, in and out, in and out, there is something wrong with you, the leader, the owner, or whoever you are, not the organization, right? Not the company you started, it's you. Think about that first. You want your people to be productive, think about them first. Get them to be productive because they will deal with the clients. When they're happy, they will produce better results. They will deal with the clients a lot better, right? This is important for you guys to think about. Now, how do we get people to change? How do we focus on people? What do we focus on people to change? There's there's this thing called the ABC. Let me just share with you this. All right, it's called ABC. I'm going to use the board. Everybody can see me, right? So we have the ABC. A stands for attitude. Okay. B stands for behavior. And C stands for competencies. We have to know that every time when we tell somebody, if we tell them to change or we tell them whatever, we are focusing on their attitude. But you and I know that attitude is difficult to change. It's harder to change. You can talk to a person, you can tell them, I don't want you to be late. If you're late, I'm going to punish you, I'm going to give you a warning letter and whatever. Does it work? Maybe for a little while. Then after that, they go back to being the same, right? Because attitude is just the thoughts about it. But behavior is what we need to focus on. So if I start asking you questions like, how are you going to be early? That's a behavioral question. Now, before that, just understand, what does attitude do to behavior? In actual fact, it determines our behavior. So how you think is how you behave. Now, punctuality issues, you don't have to know his thinking. All you have to do in actual fact is look at his behavior. His behavior will tell you about his attitude. Because our attitude determines our behavior. The next thing is, what does behavior do to competencies? It actually develops our competencies. The more we do, the better we become. The more we do, the better we become, right? Now, if at all, if you think that badminton is difficult, let's just take badminton for example. If you think that badminton is difficult, you were not likely to play it because you think it's difficult. So you will not develop the right competencies. But if I come along and I every day I said to you, I say, hey, you know what, let's just play. Whether you can hit the shuttlecock or not, doesn't matter. Let's just play. Every day we spend half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour, and just hit. When we start hitting, when you start knowing how to hit the shuttlecock and you are able to return the shuttlecock back to me, the more we play, the better you get. When you get good at competencies, when you get good at badminton, will you still think that badminton is difficult? Unlikely, right? You will start to say, hey, you know what, badminton is not that difficult at all. Then the more you do it, the better off you are. And soon enough, you say, hey, badminton is just like a piece of cake, no problem, you can play it. So if you want people to be productive or the non-performance, even if they're, I mean, when we're talking about working remotely, if they're not producing, stop talking and telling them what to do. Start asking them, what are you going to do? How are you going to change your behavior to give me what I want? How are you going to change your behavior to give me what I want? When they start doing that, they're going to develop the right competencies. You're going to get the results you want. And that's what an ABC is all about. It's about us focusing on changing people's behavior. It's not about changing people's attitude. How many of you here in this room have, yes, it is, I just got a comment here from Daniel. It says, is it, so it is a perpetual thing, a cycle, yeah. But keep changing people's behavior. If they have anything negative, poor performance is the same thing. If you tell them how to perform, they're going to just give an excuse later on and says, I tried. You tell me to do this, I tried, but I can't. So you can't blame him for it. But if you ask him, what are you going to change in your behavior? How are you going to make it different to produce the results I want? Then they're going to start telling you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Now they become accountable for it. When they become accountable, guess what they will do? If they don't do, you have every reason to say, okay, thank you for your service. I don't need you in my team. You can't afford it. We as leaders, we can't afford to have poor performance all the time. You're not going to meet your KPI, and that affects you. We as leaders, we can't go to our board of directors and say, I'm sorry, guys, you know what? It's not me. It's my people. They can't do. Do you think the board of directors say, yeah, you're right, you know, it's your people. Fire them. Let's keep you. You're very good. Right? You can't do that. Okay, I have another question here. I'm sorry. Can we focus on helping them develop optimum habits? Will that impact behavior? Yeah. Yes, you can. But spend time coaching your people, guys. If you don't spend time coaching your people, they're not going to learn. We can use many tools. In actual fact, I have a tool to share with you. It's called Trello. And you can use this to manage your people remotely. But that's just a tool. What is more important is that you are also there to help them, that they can reach you easily, that you spend time to coach them. But in order for you to coach, you have to dedicate time for it, and you have to actually sit down and tell them what they are not doing properly. What are the behaviors that you don't want, or what are the behaviors that you want, right? When they're remotely working, when you can't see them, you have to learn to trust that they will do the job. If they learn to do, if they know how to do the job, then there's nothing for you to worry. If they're going to produce what they say they're going to produce, and it helps you in achieving your KPI, you're set. I work with salespeople, right? In my past, I have a lot of salespeople. And I tell them, please don't come in the office. So in that sense, it's actually, in a way, it's also managing remotely, right? I said, don't come in the office. You're wasting time coming into the office. I want you to be out there. That's where your job is. Out there talking to your clients. And if you have any time in between, go into a Starbucks, check into the Wi-Fi, and then do your work there. If you keep coming back and going out, coming back and going out, you're wasting time. That's not a behavior I want, right? Okay, I have another comment here. Let me just read this. People hesitant to training employees often ask, what if we train them and they leave? Yeah, that's old school. Let me give you this other question. Yeah, there you go. There you said it. Then we have reply that says, what happens if we train them? We don't train them and they stay. Yeah, you're gonna have. I think the word is leeches, who's gonna sit in the company, sucking up all the energy of the rest of the other team, getting bonuses every single year, getting increment, right? Sitting down, shaking their legs, not producing. Well, if that's okay with you, don't train. If that's not okay with you, then do something about it, right? The younger generations that are coming in today, they're not like that anymore. They're looking for a culture of belonging. They want some sense of working together, collaboration, right? That's what they're looking for. But the only problem with the younger generation is that they don't know how to communicate. They're very good with doing WhatsApp and you know, the social media stuff. But when it comes to human interaction, they don't have it. And guys, sorry, this is something which is very passionate to me, because when I talk about leadership, I'm always talking about people and we're managing emotions. By the way, there's a quiz coming up, right? So there's a quiz coming up in a short while. Oh, thank you very much. And remember what I was telling you guys, and you'll be able to get the quiz answers very quickly. Now, it's about people. When you talk about team, it's about people. When we're talking about leadership, we're talking about people. Leadership, I don't call you a leader just because you're good at your job. I don't call you a leader just because you can reach your KPI, right? I don't call you a leader just because you're bossing people around. No. I call you a leader because you are able to influence other people. Leadership is not about pangkat. It's not about the title that you have. That's BS. Leadership is all about your ability to influence people to do what you want them to do without even asking. That's what leadership is all about. Do we have it? Maybe not. Can we learn it? Definitely. Right? Just go and watch Kung Fu Panda. Who? That guy is now the Dragon Warrior leader. And how did he get there? He learned it. Comes back to this. What's your leadership behavior? Start asking yourself that question. If there's something that you want, if you want your people to be more productive, remotely, in the office, irregardless, what are you doing differently to help you build your competencies as a leader and helping your people build their competencies? Right? At the end of the day, you can use all the tools to track that. For me, the easiest in actual fact is self-monitoring. When they start to self-monitor themselves, you have gotten rid of a lot of issues. Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry. If I can very quickly just show you a short video on Trello, and it will give you a sort of an understanding about what Trello is all about and how you can use that to manage your team. But it's more on just monitoring their work, right? And like I said, for me, it's always easier when I start getting my people to start self-monitoring. That leaves me a lot of free time to also develop myself. I'm a leader. I'm also learning. But if I spend too much time putting my people under the microscope, making sure that they are doing their work, man, I will be such a micromanaging leader that nobody's going to like. Right? So here's a little bit about the Trello video. Okay. Okay, here's the video.
You made it! Welcome to Trello. Let's start with the basics so you can be on your way to becoming a pro in no time. In this video, I'll show you Trello and its key features in a to-do, doing, and done workflow. First off, this is your Trello board. It starts off simple, but becomes a powerhouse as you add lists and cards. Your board is the bird's eye view of an entire project. It's your visual workflow where you can see your various lists, cards, and project stakeholders. You can easily add a list like this. Each list is a column that can hold cards. List names can be personalized. Each list houses cards. The cards represent individual tasks in your workflow. Click Add another card on the list to create a card. A card details all of your important information for a task. Each one can be customized and updated, then move through your lists until it reaches done. Let's take a look at this board. It's a classic to-do list structure. To do, doing, and done. You can create a separate card in your to-do list for every task you need to tackle. As you work on each task, you can move them along to indicate your progress. Got started on that report? Drag and drop that card to your doing list. And when you finish that report, hop it over to the most exciting list, the done list. Nice. Now take a moment to pat yourself on the back, my friend. With this simple workflow, you'll be cruising through your to-do list in no time. Sometimes you need to provide more detail on a task, especially when you're collaborating with others. This is where the card back comes in and the features of Trello truly shines. Simply click on your card and you'll see a variety of ways to add more context and detail. You can write a short or long description. In this menu on the right, there are several gems. Click Members to assign this task to whoever on your team needs to collaborate, review, or help you finalize it. Set a due date and time for when the task is due. Click Label to customize colored labels to give your tasks more context. Click Checklist to create a more detailed list of action items. You can even leave comments with updates and feedback on your cards so your team can always see what you're thinking. Get some perspective on your tasks at a glance. Let's take a closer look at what you can see on the front of each card. The front of your card can give you a clue as to what details are living on the card. Attachments, members involved, and even checklist progression. Sometimes processes and priorities change. Trello is as flexible as you are and can be easily customized. It's easy as pie to move around, add, or remove lists so your workflow can better suit you. Your board looks fantastic. Virtual high five. With all of these tasks to accomplish, you're going to need some help. Now that you've learned the ropes, let's invite your teammates to the awesome board you've created. Go to Invite and choose the folks you need to share your board with. Get them excited to start collaborating by writing a personal message that will go straight to their inbox. Boom! Your tasks, your team, and your workflow, all in one place. No matter the project, Trello makes it easy to work better together.
There's basically just Trello is actually quite easy to use. It helps you to track things. However, again, like I said, I think for me, the key important things for us to take note of in actual fact is that get people to also self-monitor. They have to take accountability. Give them that accountability. Don't put all the accountability on yourself. Ask them how questions. Don't ask them the why questions. Ask them the how questions. How are you going to get this done? What are you going to do? Those kind of questions are going to help you create accountability onto your people. Once that is done, trust me, your job is going to be a lot easier, right? As a leader, like you guys, I've been there. I've worked my way through my career. And for me, more importantly, in fact, at the end of the day, I have to understand I'm not managing the work. I'm managing the person. That person who's doing the work. If I manage the person well, the work gets done. If I don't, then it's very hard to meet my KPIs. Okay. So here are some of the benefits of Trello. And of course, I think you guys can read this through. But if there's anything that is important for you to take note of, right, is if you're going to micromanage your people, you're only going to drive people away. I don't like micromanaging managers, neither do you. I don't think you like that. And if you are one, change this. Change that, and you will find that your people are going to be a lot more productive. I've been in the corporate field for 20 plus, almost 30 years, right? And I've been in this line facilitating programs and working with leaders like yourself for the last 30 years. And trust me, I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of different types of leaders, right? Good one, bad ones, all the things. There's always this question. I always remember this question that was asked by a university graduate. He asked me, Tino, if you had a choice, which would you pick? Good job, bad boss. Bad job, good boss. Good job, bad boss. Bad job, good boss. He asked me, which one would I choose? And the answer was very quick and very easy. Good job, good boss. Bad job, good boss. Because a good boss is going to help me grow. If they help me grow, the job is going to be good. Okay? Something for you guys to think about. Okay, now we're going to have a quiz